afternoon. Thank you for joining us in Nigeria Now. This is coming to you live from Equa International Television, and I have Joyce Jakada with me in the studio.
Good afternoon, Sambosulu.
Good afternoon. How are you doing?
Fine, thank you.
You're looking great this
thank
afternoon.
You look same too.
Yeah, thanks. Today we are going to be talking about the new Naira redesign policy, and then you remember we spoke about the controversies, around it when it comes to the announcement of the deadline, and then the apex court, the Supreme Court, and then everybody is trying to interpret based on what he understood concerning the whole policy. Now we want to see how people will understand this policy better from our own angle. The controversies that are coming, how are people getting along with the hardship, and some people are having swell time as well. So we just want to create the balance and then see who are the people that this policy entirely is favoring, and then why are some people kicking against the policy, asking for extension of the deadline. You can do well to join us on this conversation, because with you the program gets better. So just drop your input and tell us how you are feeling concerning this particular Naira redesign policy. Today the controversies are still on. Joyce.
Samuel Suleiman, the issue of Naira, new Naira policy coming from the CBN is not a new one. I think every Nigerian can relate to it right now, because when you look back, just before the 31st of January, the earlier deadline of the usage of the old notes, everybody was running up and about, and I think everybody at that point already had the news about the Naira redesign and the effectiveness of the new notes and all of that. So everybody is just up and about to ensure that they return their old notes so they can get the new one, or you don't get caught up with your old notes and it becomes useless. Controversies, like from the announcement on 26th of October 2022 came as a surprise, but the policy isn't strange because it's obtainable everywhere. And from October 26th, when the central bank announced that they're going to be redesigning the Naira note, they gave a lot of reason. The fact that over about 2.7 trillion is outside of the bank, and there's need for them to mop out this fund. It's only responsible of every apex bank in every country or any country to do that. Nobody will want to leave its cash outside of the banking system. And it was a good one, given the reasons, the fight that they want to fight terrorism, all this kidnapping for ransom, vote buying, amongst other, was a welcome idea. But what is the bone of contraction here? What is the problem? It is the scarcity of the new notes, if you ask me, and the ineffectiveness of internet facilities by the banks. So we saw how that from 15th of December, the new notes started coming out. People were, oh, this is it, and all of that. And the central bank gave an order that the commercial banks should not dispense old notes. It should be new notes. People should be able to withdraw that in the ATM. But contrary to that, even down to the last week of the January, we saw how that it was still the old notes that was dispensing, and people were wondering, I'm taking back the old note as instructed by central bank, and then I'm going to withdraw, it's still the old notes that is coming out. But close to the 31st, people tried as much as they could to just return all their notes, and then graciously the Apex Bank extended it to February 10th. And then just before the February 10th deadline that was extended, we saw a lot of voices coming out. INEC is saying it might affect its operation, but the central bank came out to give them assurance of the fact that they were going to make cash available. We saw political parties coming out to say that no, central bank should stick to its January 31st deadline, should not go against it, because some politicians want to take advantage of that to get cash and buy votes. And like about 14 political parties, and then a high court sitting in Abuja said, please, central bank, don't go against your deadline, ensure that you stand by it. But 3 governors submitted and filed a suit, governor of Kaduna State, Kogi, and even Zamfara, against the deadline of the Naira swap and all of that. And we saw how the Supreme Court gave an order and said that until an interim conjunction, that they give an interim conjunction, and they said that until February 15, the old Naira notes can still be should be in use. But we didn't hear from the central bank, and a lot of controversies. More governors are joining against the suit against federal government, and then CBN's deadline on the Naira swap. We saw beyond the governor of Kogi, Zamfara, and Kaduna State, Ondo have joined through the Attorney General, that of Ekiti have joined, that of Kano have also joined, Ondo have joined. And you recall how I said, wow, so our governors can be swift to action like this. We've had cases of attack, kidnappings, killings in some of these states where we see the governors joining, filing a suit against the federal government and CBN. And we've never had them go to court and say, oh, because federal government didn't come out and stand for us, protect us, we are going to court. But the issue of Naira redesign, and there's some people of the opinion whether they are ulterior motives just to suit their personal interests and all of that. But again, we saw how that the Supreme Court say until 15 after this hearing. But then some Nigerians, like I said earlier on before the show, are helping the CBN to execute the February 10th deadline. Because from Friday, we saw how that some people were rejecting the old notes. None reported that their correspondents were in Abuja, and there's some places like Filling Station, the fuel station, the markets, and even car parks. And then they saw some traders are refusing to collect it. Personally, here in Jos, went to get something, and then from an eatery, and they rejected the old notes. I was wondering, on the 10th of February, they said they are not collecting. On Saturday, went to refill gas, they also rejected the old notes. And I was wondering, so the apex, is it that we don't have respect for the law? Because this is coming from the Supreme Court. They said until 15 when there's hearing, and that's not to say that that's the final day that they are giving. But Nigerians are already, some Nigerians are already rejecting the old notes. When I took a walk to the market as well, tried buying, some people too rejected the old note. It was not until yesterday I was sharing it with someone that I just saw a young lady in the shop, and she said, oh, I can collect the old note. And then, in fact, I just bought what I did not even intend to. And I was amazed. I was just thinking, why are Nigerians rejecting it? There was already an interim injunction saying stopping the CBN from the February 10 deadline. But already Nigerians are already rejecting and all of that. But what is the concern? Nigerian Governors Forum, NGF, have come out to say that this continuous they warned that the continuous scarcity of the 200 Naira note, 500 Naira note, and 1,000 note may lead to economic recession, and as well as severe food inflation. And that was their concern on Saturday during their meeting. They said that they lamented that this scarcity is a problem. And they mentioned the fact that if nothing is done about it, we're going to have severe food inflation. There will be variable commodity prices, and this will also lead to recession. Now, you see people leaving their business places, spending almost the whole day in bank, hoping that they can exchange their money or they can get the new note. But at the end of the day, if they don't get it, it becomes a problem. Now, it will cripple their business. Inflation is going to be inevitable. So I think that the concern, like I said earlier on, is not on the new policy, new Naira policy, because it's obtainable everywhere. But most times, or other clients, you see that they give about like a year plus for that kind of policy to be to kickstart. And for some people, the old note will still be in use until, like, you cannot go to the bank and get the old note. You can go and deposit, but for withdrawal, it is the new note. So gradually, it is the old note will be completely wiped off. But then we are stopping the old note, yet the new currency is not available. The president have come out to say that we should be given 7 days, and that 7 days elapsed last Friday. Have the situation changed? No. Because when you go to banks, you still see queues. And some of these banks at 12 o'clock, there's no more, like there's no money again. We've seen how some Nigerians will go to the market as early as, to the bank as early as 3 a.m., as early as 2 a.m. and yet maybe they'll end up being paid with 1,000 naira or 3,000 or 5,000 naira when the person is a family man that has a need of maybe 50,000 in a day, and then you're restricting that it has to be 3,000, it has to be 5,000 naira. So I think the major concern is the scarcity of the new notes. Even though the central bank, through the governor, says that Nigerians can explore the alternative, that's the internet banking, but how effective is our internet service? It was on this program that I talked about the fact that I went to the market to get some stuff, and I was doing trying to transfer. It kept reversing, and there was nothing I can do because the person would not even allow me to go with the items, and like I cannot go with the items, so I will have to just leave it and then return back. So it is not a good situation. If we're saying that we should resort to alternative means, can we make the internet service effective? I think more awareness as well needs to be done, and the availability of these new Naira notes is going to be helpful. So the CBN should do the needful.
You know, you raise a concern, you know, particularly about the issue of the scarcity of the Naira note, and then the masses now, you know, trying to even help the central bank, you know, in implementing this deadline. And I start wondering, like, okay, the common man doesn't even have that much. You will see some people, the reason why you see queues, you know, in ATMs and then banks is because we will say possibly is end of month, and then people are being paid salary, and they just want to take that salary which is being paid, you know, so that they will take care of the home, and then you queue, and then at the end of the day you are ending with 3,000, highest 5,000. To some banks that are really trying, they will give you the opportunity of taking 10,000 naira or 20,000 naira, which as the day goes by, they keep reducing. You know, people that are giving you 20,000, they reduce it to 10,000, to 5,000. And that's how it kept going.
And it's against what the CBN told the general public, that in a week, as individual, you can withdraw like daily 20,000. And then in a week, I think...
Which makes it 100,000 naira.
For corporate organization too, it was increased. And then, but you go to the bank and then you're just giving 3,000, 1,000 naira, 5,000, and they will tell you no cash in some cases.
Corporate is 5 million. Okay. You know,
in a week.
In a week, and then individual 100,000, which you can take 20,000 daily for five days.
How many people have been able to withdraw that in a day?
That's the question. And then now you see, sometimes I don't blame Nigerians personally, because if you look at this country, what has been happening, you know, for the past few years, you will see that even the government are not responsible. I mean the government, not this regime, the government. That there will be court order, and then the government herself will refuse to follow.
So do you mean to say this government have been taking full responsibility of, because you said you don't mean this regime? No,
I'm not saying that it started with this regime. That's what I mean. You know, you see it prior from even the time of PDP to APC. But to me, I would say it became worse, you know, with this regime. Because if you talk about government not following court orders, you can count, you know, how many court orders that this particular regime refused to go by it. And then you look at it, okay, now you have the masses that they are looking up to the government. Government is setting the standard, and then the government is not even obeying her own arm of government. And then you expect people, you know, they will see it as just something that is normal. So if you don't obey court order, it's normal. And that's the reason why when the Apex Court says, you know, the old and the new should run concurrently, you know, until that sitting. Possibly, maybe because of public interest. That same day, the court can just decide and said, she's keeping everything aside until all of these things that we are complaining, you know, talking about power supply, talking about the internet. so that all of these facilities will accommodate the new policy that you are talking, so that people will not go into a severe hardship, because it is really, really unbearable to people. Now we are talking about how many percentage of people that are living in urban areas. Check out the percentage to the population that we have. We have over 200 million that are using this currency. And if you check the percentage of people that are living in city that have access to light, have access to banking halls, you know, have access to the internet, how many are we? Then you now look at the people that are outside the cycle. You imagine us in the urban center. This is the kind of hardship that we are going through that you cannot imagine. That it will lead to some people, you know, that are responsible, people that have family, you know, to an extent of removing their clothes simply because they are being deprived from their right. These are legitimate money that people work, and then they gather and they said they want to keep it safe so that anytime they want, they will come and pick it. And then they are telling you you are being restricted from even getting your own money. Look at the frustration. Then talk about those people that don't even have access to internet, don't have access to banking. Imagine the frustration. Some people, how much do they have? Maybe 5,000. This 5,000, he has to travel from where he is to maybe the local government headquarters. And if you are to go around the local government headquarters, you only have one bank. You know, how many commercial banks do we have? Officially, they are operating all over. But you can't find those banks replicated, you know, in all of this local government that you will say, at least the structure, even if you are leaving the villages, the words, you know, you are coming to the local government capital, at least you have banks that will accommodate this pressure, you know. You only find one bank, and then how efficient, you know, is the bank. And then you find out maybe the person is having 10,000 naira and you are spending maybe 1,000 from where you are to and fro, and then you are not getting the services that you need. You are there for 2 days, 3 days, simply because you want to change your 10,000 or 5,000 naira. Does it make sense? It doesn't.
Don't forget that all these transactions attract charges. And for some banks, they charge as high as 75 naira.
Yes.
So imagine that you're saying, yes, we should resort to this alternative. We don't have a problem with it. But like I asked earlier on, how effective is the service? As like you gave the illustration of the man that went to bank. He had about 500,000 and he just needed, he said, even if it's 100,000, but they're saying no cash. He had to go naked and he was really crying. Like no right thinking human being would see that and not weep or be concerned about that. And I asked myself, we have government in place, we have leaders in place. What's the essence of governance? Is it to subject people to hardship, to suffering? This is his own money.
Yes.
And he's asking for at least, I have a wife, I have children, and then my wife is sick, yet he's not being given, like even at the points that I saw he was wearing his clothes back, it was because some people were pleading with him, just wear your clothes, not like, okay, we are going to give you that money. Why would we sleep with our 2 eyes closed? Why would the right thinking and responsible government sleep and then looking at his citizen suffering like that? Like, why must we come up with policies that we've not prepared for it? Like, I think as good as this policy is, before coming up with things like that, let's make sure that all the modalities that need to be in place are in place, from awareness, sensitization from bank, checking the level of preparedness of every bank, the facility. We've had that, how the Apex Bank have told us that it's the fault of some of these commercial banks. They have been hoarding the money. How many banks have been sanctioned? Like, can you come out with evidence that is saying we gave them so amount of money, we saw them hoarding so amount of money? Like, we are saying that it's so that we can stop vote buying politicians, will not hoard money and all of that. How many politicians, I keep asking, have you seen on the queue? Don't they have the new notes? They do. How did they have access to it? So I think, like, let's take a minute and think about Nigerians. because that is the essence of democracy, government of the people, by the people, and for the people. So what is the essence of governance when the people are not at the center stage? I think we have subjected Nigerians to enough suffering. Let's take a minute and take our eyes from ourselves and think about Nigerians. Like, we have enough. I will always say Nigeria is a great country. We have enough to meet everybody's need. We are where we are because of the selfish interest and greed of few individuals. But it holds on Nigerians out there to do the right thing by electing the right people. Because if we continue on this circle of nepotism, voting on the basis of what you will get in the future, religion, and all of that, then we'll continue in this circle of one problem or the other, policies that will come that will be against you and all of that. Let's think of the right people. It is already, like, we're barely, like, we're counting few days to the presidential election. Who are you voting for? Have you checked their antecedents, their pedigrees? Like, what have these people done? What do you think they can do? Like, is it going to solve all the problems in Nigeria? Is the person competent enough? What about ideas? Is the person going to help in bringing all the over 20 million children that are on the street back to the classroom? Every nation that refuses to educate its own then is like heading towards destruction. Education is very key. Think about it. Over 20 million children are out of school. Look at the percentage of the unemployed. Like, we have good brains, creative mind, yet these people don't even have opportunity to explore their God-given talent. When they even try skill acquisition, the power supply is not there, enabling environment. No wonder year in, year out, you see our doctors moving out, our nurses moving out, like, and when they go outside the shores of Nigerians, they are doing great. That means if they have the opportunity, if they have the platform, they are going to explore their creativity, their ideas, and they will move this nation to greater height. We keep recircling old set of people, same set of people, neglecting the brains that we have, and other countries are taking advantage of them. When you fall sick, you go to other countries, and it's the same Nigerian doctor that will treat you in that place. So why not meet his need here? Why not give him an enabling environment? So I think Nigerians, if you have suffered enough, if you have suffered enough, I'm repeating it again, if you love your children and your unborn generation, I think it behoves of you to do the needful this coming election. Don't vote on the basis of, it's my turn, this and that. Look out for leaders that are going to represent you well, leaders that are patriotic, leaders that have humanity in them, leaders that will come up with policies that will be beneficial to the people. Like, there are so many things, but like I always say, everything boils down to Nigerians. And for the Apex Bank, well, we still look forward to February 15th, when the Apex Court is going to file in all the suits and then talk about it. But then, until then, I think for those Nigerians that are rejecting old notes, I don't know who employed them, whether the Central Bank of Nigeria actually employed them to help them execute that February 10 deadline. I don't know, but it doesn't make sense. Somebody was saying that, oh, when hunger hits them, they will start collecting the old notes. Supreme Court is like the overall, like, is the apex court. And so when it says something, every other court is mute, because that's the final, the final judgment comes there. So the Supreme Court are saying, Apex Bank, hold on with the February deadline until February 15, February 10 deadline. Hold on until February 15, when we're going to be filing all this, hearing all this suit before the next step is being taken. And you out there are saying, I will not collect, I will not collect. Well, I don't know who recruits you to do that well, but I think we should always do the needful. Let humanity be at the center stage.
Let humanity be at the center stage. I think on this note, we will draw our curtain to this program. Thank you for staying with us. And like she rightly said, this is the right time for you to vote your conscience, you know, because definitely if we want a new Nigeria, if you want all of this to change, the change start with us. And I believe with your PVC, you will do the needful. Thank you, and let's do this tomorrow together. God bless you.